What's going on, Dolphins? It is your boy Dillon, and I want to make this video. I'm going to try and make it as super quick as I can because I kind of got something to do here shortly, but I wanted to make a video about this article and this news coming out regarding Tua Tagovailoa and blah, blah, blah. So, real quick, just to kind of recap, obviously, the Dolphins tanked the 2019 season specifically so they could go get a quarterback. The guy that they evaluated and chose as their guy is Tua Tagovailoa. They took him 5th overall despite the fact that he has injuries, blah, 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 all the concerns, so on and so forth. Then they decided to just randomly thrust him into the lineup when there was absolutely no need or necessity for it, because the quarterback that was playing was not struggling, was not playing poorly, and did not get injured, right? And the team actually had won a couple games at the time, right? And now the season's over. There's a bunch of talk about how, Desean Watson could potentially be traded to the Dolphins, but if that was going to happen, they would have to probably give up at least trade Tua, the 1st round pick, and the 2nd round pick that they got from the Texans that they would have this year, and potentially even the Dolphins' own 1st round pick. So that would be 3 overall, 18 overall, and then whatever the Texans' 2nd round pick is that we have from them. I don't know what it is off the top of my head. That would be a terrible, terrible trade, in my opinion, because you'd be getting rid of so much capital, not just draft capital, but the guy that you just picked as your franchise quarterback, and not to mention the massive cap hit that comes with Desean Watson. And then, frankly, if I'm being honest, while I do think that at this current time Desean Watson is better, that's because he's actually had time in the league. He's, got a few years in. He's got the experience. He's adjusted. He's learned his offense. He's had time to build some chemistry with some of his players, even though, the Texans brass, most notably Bill O'Brien, did stupid things. But anyway, right? So, he doesn't have the same injury concerns, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. While that is the case, I do think Tua has a ton of potential. I just think that they put him in a bad situation, and they did not need to thrust him right into the lineup. But anyway, and so I wouldn't do that trade, but now there's reports out that, and this is what we're going to get to specifically today, that Dolphins players are doubting him. So I do have some specific things I want to say. Let's get through this report. And multiple sources are reporting on this. Tua Tagovailoa's potential doubted by Dolphins players after rookie year. A disappointing rookie season from Tua Tagovailoa has Miami Dolphins teammates questioning his abilities, according to Armando Salguero of the Miami Herald. So there's drama and, issues arising that are the Dolphins' fault. It's 100% the Dolphins' fault that this is an issue. That this even could potentially be an issue. That Dolphins teammates could potentially even feel down on him, right? Now, it's their fault because they didn't need to put him in. They didn't need to put him in the game when their starting quarterback was playing fine and didn't get hurt. They didn't need to put him in when he hadn't fully learned the playbook yet. And they didn't need to put him in when he hadn't yet adjusted to the NFL, et cetera, especially in the middle of a super fucked up season, right? I've been saying this whole time, not to mention the fact that he even sustained a couple minor injuries, right? So all of the reasons why I said I didn't want to put him in are looking now to be, good reasons, because there's potential issues and they might even get rid of the dude. Now, it's just rumors. There's no, definitive say in that yet. I think the Miami Dolphins, frankly, would be stupid for making that trade, but there is potential for it. And if this is true, that teammates are down on him, his performance is not his fault. Not entirely his fault. Okay, right? So some of it obviously falls onto his shoulders, right? He made a ton of bad mistakes. He got lucky because a lot of those mistakes didn't end up as turnovers, even though they should have. But that's not his fault. It's not his fault, not entirely, right? The vast majority of blame goes on the fucking brass and the organization for having made that decision when he wasn't ready. Just don't put him in. You don't need to put him in, right? Let him fucking redshirt. But one of the biggest concerns, though, is their evaluation. Anyway, let's get through the rest of this article and then I'll talk more about that. General Manager Chris Greer said last week it was clear that Tua is our starter going into 2021, but multiple anonymous Dolphins players don't think the position should be guaranteed. I understand what they said, one player said, but I don't understand why. I don't know, man. That's like a puzzle right there, another player added. Tagovailoa totaled 1,814 passing yards with 11 touchdowns and 5 interceptions in 10 appearances this season after being selected number 5th overall in the 2020 NFL Draft. Veteran quarterback Ryan Fitzpatrick, who began the season as team starter, had 23 fewer pass attempts in 2020, but had more yards with 2,091 and touchdowns with 13, with a much better QBR, 77.3 versus 52.9. Players were reportedly caught totally off guard when the Dolphins benched Fitzpatrick for Tagovailoa in Week 8. I told you, Miami finished 10-6 this season, mostly thanks to a defense that tied for 5th in points allowed while adding 3 non-offensive touchdowns. The squad has the talent to be a top contender in the AFC. I disagree with that. I think that their record this season was an aberration. I think that the defense showed a ton of flashes and some dominant potential, but I don't think that in a regular season, minus COVID, minus the abnormally high number of injuries, minus the fucked up, having an actual offseason instead of a fucked up one, minus the constant virtual, activities instead of being able to stay in, right? If there was a regular season, I don't see the Dolphins performing at a 10-6 level. Now, that's just me, right? Most people think otherwise. Most people think that, obviously that the Dolphins are super on track. I don't believe that because I don't believe that the evidence, when you look at it in its entirety, spells that out. Now, again, this year, because of a lot of lucky breaks that the Dolphins got, they did get to see a lot of the boom potential of the Dolphins. But again, I don't think that they are quite that good. And part of the reason why is because I'm not convinced that they know how to build a team properly, which we will get more into in a minute. Anyway, players are not convinced Tagovailoa is going to be great in the future per Salguero and question whether he can match up with AFC stars like Kansas City's Patrick Mahomes and Buffalo's Josh Allen. Those are the boys we got to beat, right? First of all, it's fair to note that Josh Allen took a few years to really kind of come into his own. So that's part of the reason why I say you don't need to take a quarterback in rounds 1 and 2. You can take one in rounds 3 or later every year. And also why I say you don't need to thrust your quarterback right into the lineup. He can redshirt a year, right? Because sometimes they just need to adjust, learn the playbook, gain chemistry with their teammates, etc., etc. And you also need to build a proper team around him, right? Which they absolutely did. So, it's fair to say that it took... So, what I'm saying there is, sure, Tagovailoa could come into his own. You just don't know. It's impossible to evaluate any team or player this season because of how fucked up it is. So, I can kind of get how some of these players could potentially be like, I don't know. Because Tua's performance was meh at best. But it's not his fault because he didn't make the decision to be thrust in when he wasn't ready, and he absolutely could potentially one day live up to his potential. He was just put in a bad position. He was not put in a position to succeed. He was actually put in a position where he was far more likely to fail. Anyway, so... the front office and coaching staff appear to still have faith in Tagovailoa. The quarterback was recovering from a hip injury suffered at Alabama that cost him much of the offseason last year, while the lack of preseason games also likely hurt his development. A full year as a starter could help him reach the potential he showcased when healthy in college. However, he might have an uphill battle to convince his teammates he's the right man for the job. And that's true, but it's the Dolphins' fault because they didn't need to put him in the fucking lineup. They just didn't. And these issues stem from that because of his lack of performance. Anyway, but so, and look, at the end of the day, right, why do owners bring in GMs and head coaches, right? Why do they fire people and then bring in new people? And what are the point and purpose of those positions within an organization? Those organizations are supposed to take what they have and build on it and turn it into something that is viable for a long sustained period of time for success, right? So you want to be able to get to the playoffs regularly. You want to be able to challenge for division titles, for conference titles, and then obviously Super Bowls, right? That's the goal, is you want consistent playoffs and to be able to challenge for those titles. And then obviously win them at least occasionally, right? So you can't win them all, obviously, right? So that's the goal. That is the point and the purpose. Now, when it comes to, you know, the front office and the coaching staffs, a big role in that, a big, you know, part of that, what determines whether or not they are successful is how they properly, or if they're properly, or if they're able to properly evaluate talent. Now, the list, to this point, the list of players on their improper evaluations by their own admissions, guys that they cut, got rid of, traded, etc., is super long. But the list of players that, you know, you could point to and say are 100% guarantees on this team is super short. Super short. About all you have is Xavier Howard and like Jason Sanders. And the only reason why I say those guys is because they're what I would consider to be the elite players on the team. Now, we've seen with this organization that it really doesn't matter. If they feel like you're going to be gone, you're going to be gone. And if they, you know, if they were to trade Tua Tagovailoa for Desean Watson, that would be further evidence of that. Also, like even Xavier Howard, they made his contract super trade friendly to other teams, so they could trade him anytime they wanted. I don't think that's likely because he had a monster season, but right, so like nobody is safe on this team. You can't, but just from production standpoints, those are the only two people that I could say are guarantees, right? And I said, you know, in my last video, the one before that, not even Tua is safe, and that was before these rumors came out about like Desean Watson and the trade and so on and so forth. And I told you, right? But anyway, so, you know, look, and the thing is I do think that Tua has a ton of potential, but I'm not convinced that they know how to build a proper team around him. I don't think that the offensive line is anywhere near good enough. I don't think the skill position players are good enough, mostly at running back. I think we still do have some receivers. That group does need to be built on. We still don't have enough pass rush or a solid enough defensive line. Our run defense still needs a ton of help. The back end, the secondary is probably where we're strongest, but I still think that Byron Jones is overpaid for what he produces. I mean, even in this season, he still could only manage to barely get one interception the entire year for like the second highest paid corner in the league. Like, are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? Sure, he had a handful of pass defenses too and had some okay games. But really, you pay Xavier Howard that kind of money because not only does he have the pass defenses, the low, you know, completion percentage in his zone and all that stuff, not only is he a lockdown corner, but he also gets 10 interceptions, right? So that's why you pay him that kind of money. Byron Jones is not worth that. Anyway, and so look, you know, some of the defensive players overperformed a little bit from what I expected them to based off of their exorbitant contracts, but I think that is probably going to fall back to earth in this next season. And look, man, but that problem goes with, you know, even if they did, right, because I wouldn't have taken Tua, right? I would not have picked him, both because of my philosophy of never taking a quarterback in the first round, but also because I wouldn't have spent the 5th overall pick on an undersized quarterback with an extensive injury history, right? Especially to his lower legs. And then I certainly would not have put him into the fucking lineup. So while it is true that I wouldn't have taken him, and while it is true that I still do have concerns, particularly with his health, I don't have as much concerns with his performance because I think that has mostly to do with factors that are out of his control, right? And I don't think it's a proper evaluation can be given this year and based off of this. You can take it and it's part of the data for sure, and he obviously has a long way to go, but I don't think you can properly evaluate him. So while all of that is true, and while I think that as it stands right now, Desean Watson is the better quarterback, look, dude, he's not going to succeed if they can't properly build a team around him. So a lot of the same issues that I have with Tua, right, is that they're not, I don't believe they're building a proper team around him. Desean Watson would have the same problems. So that's the biggest issue. And if they were to give up on him, if they were to trade him, that would just go to show you, that would just be even more significant evidence that their evaluation process is not good, right? Like every player that they brought over from the, oh, God damn it. I can't remember what the acronym, that one football league, the AFL or something like that, I think is what it was. I can't remember off the top of my head. But like, it was that football league that started up like right before COVID and then ended up having to fucking completely shut down because of COVID, and couldn't even really get off the fucking ground. But it started, they played a few games or whatever, and like we brought over like 8 players, and one of them was the fucking sack leader. None of them made the fucking team. A bunch of guys from the 2019 season that we thought would be carryovers didn't make the fucking team. They've already cut 3 of their fucking draft picks from the first 2 years. Okay? There's potential they could trade their fucking first round quarterback that they thought was their guy, right? And the fact that, because of their decisions to thrust him into the fucking lineup when he wasn't ready, now you have teammates that are questioning his ability. All of this points, though, to the fact that they don't know how to handle this. They don't know what they're fucking doing. And I'm telling you, man, the Dolphins are not going to have as much success next year. This is my guess. We'll see. There is still, to be clear, this team still has a ton of boom potential. They have to live up to that. I'm not convinced that they know how to properly build a team, and I don't think that they're going to get there. I think that there are extenuating circumstances that helped them to get to 10-6, and it's not because of the level of talent or skill or cohesion, whatever on this team. Not to mention the fact that they're going to have a new offensive coordinator next year and a new playbook, etc. So, right, I don't think that they're a 10-6 team. I don't think that they're a playoff team. And frankly, I think that next year they will likely regress. I don't think they're going to have 10 wins. I think that they are going to drop, and I think that they're going to fucking, have a season that's probably somewhere in between last year and the year before that, right? So so maybe, they'll have like 7 wins or whatever. But I don't think that they're going to fucking be what everybody expects them to be. I hope I'm wrong. I really do. But I don't know how people follow along with this storyline from the beginning. From the moment they fired Gase, hired Flores, tanked the 2019 season, completely gutted the roster. Like, I don't understand how and then their evaluation process this entire time. I don't know how people look at this storyline and be like, yeah, right path, man. Things are, but again, I hope that I'm wrong. I hope they prove me wrong. So far, they've proven me exceptionally right. Even despite the fact, or even including the fact that they had an overperformance in their season and exceeded expectations and got to 10 wins, right? Even with that, they have still overwhelmingly proven me correct in my assertions as far as the direction that this organization is headed. Now, again, I hope they prove me wrong. I want them to prove me wrong, but we will have to wait and see how it plays out. I don't think it's going to get any easier for them. And if I'm being honest, I think that they're going to end up regressing. And then I think they're going to have a down year, especially with the expectations that are going to be on this team now, having won 10 games and nearly making it to the playoffs in an expanded playoff field, right? So, yeah, so I want them to get there, but I don't think that I think that they're going to end up regressing. And then, look, man, this is going to be their 3rd season, okay? And Stephen Ross has a history. Every single coach that he has hired, every single one, has been fired at the 3 to 3.5 year mark. So, we'll see how it plays out. But to save their jobs, I mean, nobody is talking about them being on the hot seat right now. But mark my words, if they are going to keep their jobs, they have to maintain what they did this year to do so. So what that means is that at a minimum, they have to have a winning season, 9-7. Most likely would even have to get to 10 wins, though, because of, you know, how steep the competition is against the Bills, right? Not necessarily so much the other two teams in the division, but against the Bills, because the Dolphins are going to want to try and challenge for the division, right? So, 10 wins probably is likely, you know, a bar that they will have to cross, but they'll at least have to be a 9-win team, have to have a winning season. You know, I mean, I don't know if sniffing the playoffs is, see, that's the thing though, is I'm just not even really convinced that that's going to be good enough with the expectations set on this team, with the 10 wins, having their franchise guy, with the way that the fan base is so behind it and thinks that they're heading in the right direction, you know, with the praise being put on Flores, etc., etc. I'm pretty sure that they're going to have a 10-win season and make it to the playoffs if they're going to be looked at as taking forward progress, right? And look, man, because Stephen Ross is getting super old and he wants to have a winner in his lifetime. So if they do happen to regress this next season and don't have a winning season, let's say they only get to, like, you know, even if they get, and that's the thing, 9-7, I'm not even sure Stephen Ross is going to be okay with that, because he's seen a lot of that, right? Ever since he became the majority owner, the team has sunk to a very, very mediocre squad, right? Ever since he took over, the Dolphins have become they went from a very winning team to mediocre, and then even sometimes bad, right? That has primarily been under Stephen Ross. So he's seen a lot of that. I'm not sure 9-7 is going to be good enough for him. But if they were to regress, and if they were to say, you know, be 7-9 or 8-8 or something like that, or God forbid only win 6 games, then there is a substantial possibility either at the end of next season, you know, like next offseason, or if not at the end of next offseason, somewhere in the middle of the following season, my guess is that Brian Flores and potentially the front office as well will be fired, and they will fucking, you know, part ways and move on, and Stephen Ross will say some shit like, oh, well, we appreciate everything he did, and he's a great guy, and we love him, but we just feel like it's time to go in a different direction. So we'll see, right? We'll see how it plays out. Again, my hope is that they turn it around. I hope they do make it to 10 wins again. I hope that they do build this team properly. I hope that they do get to the playoffs. But, and, you know, again, people can hate on me all they want. They could say I'm negative and this, that, and the other. But my evaluation of the data at hand is that things are not, and this is, look, and again, I can admit when I'm wrong. There have been multiple things over my evaluation that I've been wrong about. A lot of the details I have been wrong about. That is in large part because, for example, this season, right, I didn't think they were going to win 10 games, but that was because I couldn't properly account for how COVID and injuries was going to affect things, right? So, I'm wrong sometimes, right? I'm often... Or sometimes, not often, but I am occasionally wrong about details in the whole thing. But I'm usually generally accurate when it comes to my big picture evaluation, right? And so far, it's looking like my big picture evaluation is going to be correct. They absolutely have to fucking totally turn things around this next season to change that. Alright, with that, I'm going to get out of here. I hope you guys appreciate my perspectives. If you do, make sure you hit the subscribe button. Make sure you hit the like button. Make sure you hit the bell if you want to get the alerts. Share my channel and videos with your friends and family. Leave your questions, comments, and concerns down in the comments section. Of course, as always, follow me on Twitter at Dillon Tartaro. And with that, I am out. I'll see y'all soon. Phins up.